Hi, hello everybody. Today is is it bad if I can't remember what day it is? Oh my god, NaNoWriMo is making me insane. Thumbs up this video if NaNoWriMo is making you insane. Anywho's, I wanted to give you guys an update. So yesterday was interesting. Let me stop spinning like a crazy person. So I didn't get any writing done yesterday, and the reason being I just got to a point where I wasn't really sure where my story was going anymore. I kind of got stuck. And so what I did is I actually decided to try and plot out different scenarios and different scenes to see exactly where I could take my story. I feel as though I was pretty much just letting my story unfold and allowing my story to just happen. And then I got to a certain point where I wasn't sure exactly where I was going with it. I don't know the ending. I know what I want to happen in the ending in terms of themes that I want to come across in the ending, and emotionally, I know, you know what it is? I know the emotional journey of my characters. I know emotionally where I want to take them, and I know where I want them to end up. I just don't know how that's going to play out in terms of actions and the actual storyline. I have a fuzzy, vague idea of what I would like to see, but I'm not sure how to get there. So I decided to take a break yesterday, and I ended up reading an entire book. I read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black because I just needed to give my brain a break. I need to escape for a little bit and read something that is, I'm already supposed to be reading. It's on my TBR pile. And also, I needed some inspiration, and I needed to read an author who, sometimes when you're stuck, at least for me, I read. And the reason I read is because it pushes me, because I'm thinking, here's an author who has been through, she was once in my shoes. She was once working on her story, writing her story. She got stuck. I'm sure there were times where she wasn't sure where the story was going to go. Yet, here I am reading her finished, published work. So she got through it, and she finished her story, and now I'm reading her story and enjoying it. I also get inspired by different writing styles and voices, and I really enjoy seeing how other authors have handled character development. So I'm really glad I took a reading break yesterday and read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, because it really pushed me and it gave me some brand new, fresh ideas. It opened my eyes to new ways that I could sort of write my story and unfold it. And it just encouraged me, gave me the encouragement I needed to continue. I actually read and finished The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, and then I picked up The Darkest Minds by Alexander Bracken and read a little bit of that. I've been reading it, and I just really love that story. I needed to get a love and appreciation of story writing back. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to read a little bit of The Darkest Minds, because that is a damn good story. And that's going to encourage me to continue to pursue making sure that my story turns out to be a for today. My plan is I'm going to continue to plot out the rest of the story, but I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. I have a few ideas where I want the story to go, but once again, I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm just going to look at all my ideas, and whichever one sticks out the most, I'm going to start writing that one. If it doesn't work out, I'll pick another one and write that one, and try to write my way through my slump, I guess. Is it a slump? My writer's block? Is it a block? I'm not quite sure what to call it. Stuck. I'm going to try and write my way through being stuck right now. Since I'm so far ahead with my word count, I am no longer focusing on word count. I know that can be dangerous and that can be a slippery slope, but I was starting to notice that the whole word count thing just put a lot of pressure on me. So Instead, I feel that I have written enough and gotten far enough ahead to now start to focus on the story itself and just allowing myself the freedom to write what I need to that day. If I write and I don't feel like writing anymore, then I'm going to stop. If I need to take a break, I'm going to take a break. If I need time to read something else to find some more inspiration, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to trust my instincts because I still want this to be a fun experience. And I've started to notice that when I start to put a lot of pressure on myself to write exactly 1,667 words a day, it's not fun anymore. It starts to get tedious and very overwhelming. And when I started Nano, I wasn't focusing on, winning or getting to 50,000 words. And I'm still not focusing on that. I'm focusing on pushing myself to write daily, on trying to get this story idea that I've had in my head for months out on paper and just get something down so that I have something to work with later on after Nano when I start, my editing process to actually try to refine it into something solid. But I am having oh so much fun with this whole experience, and once again I want to thank everyone who subscribed to my channel. Whenever I get up in the morning and I see that I have new subscribers, it makes me so happy, and you have no idea how much it means to me that you have subscribed and have decided to go on this journey with me. And thank you so much. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, thank you to everyone who's been commenting. Thank you to all my buddies and fellow nano vloggers who continue to inspire me, and it's just fun to watch your vlogs and to see your insights, and how much they've helped me and helped me see things in a new perspective. Also, just to have other people to go through this experience with so that we don't all feel so crazy. Because it kind of makes you a little crazy, I have lost a ton of sleep. My story has taken over my entire life. I dream about my story. When I close my eyes at night, I have dream sequences of possibilities of different ways that my story could go and different paths that my characters could take. I mean, it's absolutely insane, but at the same time, it's amazing and so much fun. This is the most fun I have had all year long, and I have NaNoWriMo to thank for that, and I'm grateful. And I have all of you guys to thank for that, for doing this with me, and we're all in this together, which is really comforting because if I had to do this by myself, I would have quit after day one, and y'all know. So thank you so much to everybody who is on this journey with me, and we will get there, guys. One day at a time, we're gonna get there. So for the rest of today, I am going to continue to plot out the story and then start to write one of the scenarios that I've come up with and see which one sticks. I'll probably end up writing quite a few and then see which one sticks out the most to me and which one makes the most sense. I've noticed that when I get stuck, the best thing for me to do is I think about my characters and I think about my story as a whole. I think about, what do I want this book to say? What kind of people do I want my characters to be by the end? Where am I trying to get them to emotionally? Now, what actions would make sense and would push them to that place? What needs to happen to them in order to get them to where I need them to be by the end? And what overall message, or I keep saying themes, but what overall message am I trying to say with this novel? Who do I want my characters to be? And how do I want them to turn out? And where do I want them to end up? Because I am the creator and I can get them to where I need them to be. I just need to know what that is. So I do kind of take about an hour or two to really sit down and meditate on the story and think about my characters, each of them individually. I imagine them, and I imagine their lives and where they are right now, where I left off, in the writing. Okay, this is where they are right now. Where do I want them to end up? Where do I want them to get to? What am I trying to say? Who do I want them to be by the end of this whole journey? So I focus on that, and a lot of times that helps me to break through, to figure out different actions and things that needs to happen to them, or things that they need to do in order to get them to that place I need them to be at by the end. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's just something that I notice that I do when I get to a place where I need something to push me to continue on. I need some fresh new ideas. I need some inspiration. I think about my characters. Yep. I know in one video I said I was going to do a reading of the story, but I've decided not to do that for several reasons. The first reason is this is a rough draft, and to be honest with you, this is probably the roughest draft I have ever produced in my entire life. And because NaNoWriMo is about quantity over quality, and I have been beating back my inner editor, I'm just basically focused on getting words on the page. I don't feel comfortable with the idea of putting something out there in terms of me reading something to you that is not what I feel is my best. And I know that honestly, I'm not afraid of judgment. I don't think any of my subscribers would judge me or make me feel bad or badly for what I have written so far, because we're all in the same boat. And even if you're watching and you're not doing NaNoWriMo, or you're not in the same boat, I have enough faith in humanity at this point that unless you're a troll or an unhappy human being, there's not going to be a lot of backlash or negativity. And if there is, then you're a troll or an unhappy human being, and I don't need to be focusing on you. So that's not necessarily it. It's just, for myself, I don't feel comfortable putting something out there that is not my best work. Another reason is I was watching Kat from Katie-tastic, her vlogs, her NaNoWriMo vlogs, and she has had some issues with people jacking her story and people stealing her story and her ideas. That is not okay with me, and you all know, all you who are writers out there, your story, what you write, it is your baby, it is your child, it is your creation. And for someone to just come in and take your ideas or just completely jack your story is just, honestly, to me, it's one of the lowest things someone else can do. It's just wrong. Like, you don't do that. And that to me is absolutely just terrifying. I would never want to go through that. So that's another reason where I just don't feel comfortable. But I am willing to tell you about my characters, a little bit more about the storyline vaguely enough so that you understand what I'm doing. The love story part of the story comes in because Sammy is trying to win Milo back. She's still in love with him, and now she's a different, stronger, wiser, better person. She is trying to get him back. Not to mention, he's the father of her child. So you have a woman aggressor and a female being the pursuer and the aggressor, and the one who is trying to get back in the good graces of the male. You also have a female protagonist who is young, and yet she is non-virginal, and she's not your typical heroine, and that's what I really love about her. This book is about love. It is a romance, but that's not all that's going on. It is about love in all its many forms. The biggest thing that happens before the book even begins is the main character, who is Samantha. She goes by Sammy England. Her mother dies. And when her mother dies, she leaves her a box of letters. Now, their relationship in life wasn't the best, but the exception comes with the last year of her mother's life. They became extremely close, and her mother tried her best to sort of rewrite all the wrongs that she had done in her lifetime and sort of make up for how much she wasn't there for Samantha growing up. So the last month of her life, or excuse me, the last year of her life, she and Sammy become extremely close. And when she finally dies, and she does die of a terminal illness, when she finally does die, she has all of these letters that she has written to Sammy And it's almost like she has a letter for almost every possible occasion that you can imagine. She wrote her daughter so many letters, and to the point where she literally has this shoebox that is filled to the brim of letters. And there's one for, like I said, every milestone, every occasion, and then there are also just letters for every day. And there are hundreds of them that she'd written, and that's sort of her gift to her after she died. Each chapter in the book opens up with a letter from her mother, and her mother's name is Sarah England. And a lot of the themes in the book deal with regret and failure. Failure is a huge theme in the book. I wanted to write a story about someone who had literally failed and not become the person that they wanted to be when they were little, when they imagined who they would become. They failed themselves. I wanted to explore that theme and really dive into that. And I wasn't really interested in redeeming someone who had failed. I was interested in having someone accept that they had failed, and then where do you go from there, especially when you know you have a time clock and an expiration date on your life. How do you try to recover from the fact that you spent most of your life living in a way that you are not proud of? How do you recover from that? That's one of the things I was interested in exploring. So basically, we have the main character, Sammy. She's dealing with the death of her mother and coming to terms with it. She has all these letters. And she also is dealing with some things in her own personal life. She is a teen mother, and we have backgrounds come in on how that came about and what happened. And we also have her dealing with not only being a teen mother, but having to face her own fears, because she left town to have her child. She was sort of ostracized and cut out from her family, and she was sent away to live with her grandmother because she refused to have an abortion and she refused to give her child up for adoption. So her parents sent her away, and coincidentally her mother became ill, and her mother then joined her at her grandmother's, and that's when they became close. That's when she also had her child. So she's a new mom. Then we also have the introduction of the character of the baby's father, Milo Fairchild, your typical rich guy who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, but his character is a little bit different. I actually tried to make him I tried to switch things up a little bit. I made Samantha the anti-heroine. Most heroines are, these sweet, nice, normal girls. But I decided to make Samantha a little bit edgier. She's not nice. She spent a lot of her life, most of her life, because she grew up with wealth, being a mean girl. So I wanted to explore that a little bit. You have a mean girl who sort of had a fall from grace and became ostracized, and how does she recover from that? Also, she's dealing with certain circumstances that have forced her to become a better person against her will somewhat. But when you become a mother and then you lose your own mother, you're forced to change whether you want to or not. So she learns these life lessons and she becomes a better person, but she also has this baggage and this past life of being this mean, cruel, rich girl who always got what she wanted and was very manipulative and a liar and a control freak. So dealing with those things. Then we have Milo, who's the hero, and he is not your typical rich guy. Even though he's rich, he's very nice, sweet. Made him naive and inexperienced, and although he's older than her, he's also kind, giving, selfless. I softened him and tried to switch things up a bit, because in YA you usually have the girl having Milo's characteristics and the boy having Sammy's, but I switched them. I just thought it'd be more interesting. Then we have the character of Sammy's father, Darren England, and he is this uber wealthy guy who came from absolutely nothing and clawed his way to the top. The problem is that he is an alcoholic and an abuser. So Sammy grew up with abuse in her home. She had a father who drank all the time, and when he drank, he abused her and her mother with his words and his fists. And so she's scarred from that. She's emotionally scarred from being abused. But because they are a rich family, they were able to hide it quite well. And people had to have a tendency to, or the people in their society, in their high society, had a tendency to sort of look the other way and ignore what was going on because Darren, is so powerful and wealthy. So Samantha grew up really hiding the fact that she was abused, and she was shut down emotionally because of it. She didn't trust people, and it, what's the word I'm looking for? It contributed to the fact that she was so manipulative and cruel because she was always looking out for herself. She always felt like she had to look out for herself. She also felt that she had to be on top. She had to be number one. And we also have the character of Juju, or Jules. And she is Samantha's best friend or former best friend, depending on which part of the story that you're in. She and Samantha were the queen bees of school, and they ruled the entire school with an iron fist. They were your typical mean girls, very cruel. You also have the character of Logan Fairchild, who is Milo's younger brother. And in a twist, Logan and Sammy were actually dating in high school before she got pregnant. And what happened is one summer she met Milo and she broke up with one brother for the other brother. Logan is your typical YA hero, the bad boy stereotype with the tattoos and, super rich and arrogant and a player and just uses women. All those characteristics I attributed to Logan and tried to separate him from his brother Milo, who's older and yet so much more naive and inexperienced than he is. Logan is focused more on being your typical rich playboy, and Milo is focused more on school and learning and getting an education, and his focus is also on giving back. He wants to, build a foundation and give back to the community. So the brothers are opposites. Samantha has become an opposite because of her circumstances. She's changed from her best friend Juju, who is still the same. She's still your typical mean girl in the story. She has a slight character transformation, but not too much. I do use flashbacks in the story because the story does not open with Sammy still being pregnant. There's a lot that happens before the story begins, so there are a lot of flashbacks. Sammy is 17 at the beginning of the story, but only a few months away from turning 18. And you have the characters around her being similar ages, but they're flashbacks to when they were younger, which is when a lot of the backstory happened. There are a few other characters like Sammy's grandmother and some of Logan's friends, some other kids in the high school, and just a few other characters, background characters, but I'm not going to go into those people right now because that would take too long. I do want to talk about the conflicts in the novel. The biggest conflict that Samantha is facing is she has not told Milo about the baby. When she was sent away, Milo didn't know what happened to her. He thought that she got an abortion. He thought she went through with it. He didn't know that she actually had the child. So Milo has no clue that he's a father. Samantha has not contacted him. She has not told him. In the beginning of the story, she's just returning back into town to face everyone and face everything that's happened. And another conflict is that when she did get pregnant, she got pregnant at 15. Milo's 3 years older. So that's statutory rape. It's what it is. And that's what Milo was threatened with by her father. He threatened that he was going to press charges, and that's kind of what made Milo back off from the situation and drove him away from the entire situation. Not to mention, he thought that Samantha was going to go ahead and get an abortion. The other conflict is that Milo didn't know that Samantha was only 15. She lied about her age. Remember, her character is cruel, manipulative, a mean girl, selfish, always trying to get what she wants. She saw Milo. She wanted him. She manipulated him. She lied to him. She told him she was, a university student because he's in university. He's in college. And she completely lied to him and fooled him. So when everything came out, once her pregnancy was revealed, he was absolutely shocked and heartbroken and devastated. Add that to the top that he's now facing possible, criminal charges, on top of the fact that now Samantha is going to supposedly get rid of his child. So, yeah, there's a conflict there. Another conflict is, I told you that Logan and Sammy were dating in high school. They were your typical high school popularity couple. They ruled the school, etc., etc. Now, once Samantha returns, she comes back. She has to go back to high school to finish school and graduate. And she has to face all of these people, and she has to face everything that's happened since she left. As you can guess, she's not at the top of the food chain anymore. The conflict between Samantha and her best friend Juju is Juju's always been jealous of Samantha. Juju was actually the one that exposed Samantha's pregnancy to everybody, causing kind of the domino effect of just absolute destruction that went on in her life after that happened, causing her to consequently lose Milo, even though she was lying to him. She still was actually in love with him. That's the twist. Even though Samantha was lying to Milo and fooled him, she also did truly love him. She just didn't know how to express it in an honest way because of her character. She didn't know how to be real with him and tell him the truth. Anywho, so Juju has always been jealous of Sammy. She's always wanted to take Sammy's #1 spot. She's always been in love with Logan, and she's always been jealous that Logan and Sammy are together. So when she kind of sets off the panic button to destroy Sammy's life, Sammy's, gone. She's out of the picture. Now she's the queen bee at school, and she starts dating Logan. Logan, who has always been in love with Sammy, but he's extremely bitter because there's this girl that you love and she completely breaks your heart to date your brother, and then she gets pregnant by your brother. So there are a lot of conflicts. Another theme that I wanted to explore is the issue of race. And I made all of my characters very diverse racially. You have her father, Darren England, and he is actually the product of a biracial union. His mother is Jamaican and his father is British. The problem is he grew up extremely poor in the island of Jamaica. He never met his father. His mother and father, split up before he was born, and he's never met his father. So he was raised by his mother, and he kind of had to claw his way up in the world to become this rich guy. Then you have Sarah England, who's Sammy's mother, and her character is she's very waspy. She comes from old white money. So you have those two characters, and together they produce Sammy. And so she has a diverse cultural background. I made her biracial. And the grandmother that she goes to stay with when she has her child is her Jamaican grandmother. So she kind of gets introduced to Jamaican culture in that way. So I try to make my characters as racially diverse as possible. You don't really see that a lot in YA fiction. It's starting to change a little bit, but it's very important to me to have different races and different cultural influences in my characters, because that's what it's like in the real world. That's what it's like in real life. You have people from all different walks of life, all different races, all different cultures, and I try to represent that accurately in my work. Whew, I hope that wasn't too confusing or convoluted, but I tried to just give you a taste of the story, even though try to give you a taste of the story, and just a little bit of background on each of the characters, a little bit about the conflict, a few themes that I want to explore, and that's pretty much it. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but it's okay. It's okay. At least now you have an idea of what the story is about. And should I talk about the storyline? No, this video is already way too long, so I'm going to end it here, and I will see you tomorrow for my next vlog. I'm Oshale. Bye. So Sammy is still in love with Milo, and she wants to win him back. Not to mention, she sort of wants to try to have her family together as he is the father of her child. And the novel explores her being emotionally vulnerable and open, and her being the pursuer and the aggressor, and her having to prove to him that she's changed and to win his love back, which, as you know, is so different from the typical YA romance trope. Here you have the female protagonist being the pursuer and the aggressor, while the male protagonist is sort of the one who's being pursued. Logan is still in love with Sammy, although he is now dating Juju, but this is not a love triangle. Although Juju did betray Sammy and was secretly jealous of her and secretly resents and hates her, Sammy still loves Juju. She's been her best friend since they were in kindergarten, and she still wants to be. Sammy has to face her alcoholic, abusive father. There is a lot going on in this book. Yeah.